Welcome everybody to the World GT Championship Season 10.
After plenty of thrills and more spills in Austria for the Red Bull Ring, we now head on over the border to Germany for the Hockenheimring and round number 5 of the World GT Championship, brought to you by 3M. And well, we're delighted to have you here for two 40-minute races here in this feature race in day here for the World GT Championship. My name is Paul Smith, and alongside me is Peter McKay. And Peter, as I alluded to it at the start there was plenty of spills, but there were some thrills last time out. But this time, two 40-minute races. We appear to be having a little slight problem with Peter's microphone. Be helpful if you press the unmute button, but hopefully we have Peter now.
You do, yes. Two races around the Hockenheimring. That's going to put the drivers to the test. It's clearly put the commentator to the test with the push to talk button already. So I do apologise for that, dear viewer. I'm glad we've got one professional in here. He's the other way. It's Paul Smith. Yes, looking forward to this one. But 7 drivers with qualifying bans, Paul.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit, that's for sure. Just to give you a little bit of a rundown of the weeks that we've had so far. So we've been to many venues so far in this one, and well, Phillip Island, of course, Australia is the start of this one back at the end of July, with Road Atlanta, Silverstone, and then a gap. And last week was the second of the sprint race in events here in the World GT Championship, before we're then heading here to Hockenheim. Spa-Francorchamps we're going to be at next week for one of our endurance events. Then we get a week off before we head on over to Detroit and Belle Isle for an endurance event. That's going to be well, I'm getting ready with the safety car button for that one, that's for sure. Brands Hatch is then followed by Motegi, with Suzuka, Sebring and Monza rounding out the weeks here in the World GT Championship. And well, speaking of the championship, let's go and have a look at your standings, starting with the pro standings here. It's Ross McFarlane who leads this one, still ahead of Josh Thompson in second place. Phil Dennis then rounds out that top 3. David Baker, good to see him up there in 4th place, with Keiko Shube in 5th place. And there's a bit of a gap back to Adam Watson, Alex Nella, Matt Turnbull, Pete Harrod, our Season 7 champion, and Elias Seppänen rounding out the top 10. Of course, Ross McFarlane, our current pro champion. Max Wolf then is joint top of your Pro-Am standings with Mike Horder. Tim Perry rounding out the top 3. Then Adam Hedgecock, Ben Gregory, Chris Van Den Ness with Tony Draper, Simon Field, Christian Rose and JB Masida on your top 10. Then the AM standings. Paul Webster, who won't be attending here today, he is leading the championship by 3 points. A joint second place for Andy Archer and Ryan Hamilton, with Tom Stevens, Michael Blake, Lee Berridge, Chris Byram, John Roberts, Simon Nella and Adam Gladden rounding out those 10 in the AM standings. And in your team standings, it is the 3M by Williams Inex BS in first place, then Pure Sims Esports BS Competition, Pure Sims Sim Lab, PS Plus Craig Setup Shop in 5th place, with RSR by G Performance in 6th place. Then your Pro-Am teams, the top 3, it's Evo SR leading that one still, only by 8 points though, ahead of Boosted Virage, and 3 Spires Motorsport rounding out the top 3 of Pro-Am. And Team Mad, the 10th place team overall. Well, Peter, we've got just about a minute and a half before the end of qualifying here and before we head into the first of our 2 races this evening. Hockenheim, it's been much changed from when I used to watch it with Formula 1 back in the day. 2002 this layout changed, but it still produces some really, really good racing.
It certainly does. I mean, you've got plenty of opportunities for overtaking, actually. I think it's a super layout. I mean, normally modern tracks we tend as purists to not get too excited about them, but actually Hockenheim you really can. The run down towards the hairpin, that's going to be the big one for the drivers to watch out for if you're being chased or if you're doing the one chasing. And especially in the opening laps, that's where it can get quite messy indeed, where you maybe get the heroes coming from maybe a little bit too far back, so you do have to keep an eye in your mirror actually as well when you go through there. Then into the stadium section, very technical, not necessarily, you know, you might not think that's a time where you gain time, but actually that is really where the wheat is separated from the chaff. In that final stadium section, super, super technical. You got to watch out for those track limit abuses as well, because as we saw at the Red Bull Ring a week ago, they added up, didn't they? They caught poor old Jack Cedric out.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of heroes coming from the back, well, there are 7 people, as you alluded to, who have qualifying bans here. It's Ashley Sutton, Jesse Jones, Joel Evans, Josh Thompson, Matt Woodhouse, Matt Turnbull and Nick Salaputis. Now I can tell you that Ashley Sutton is not here today. Of course, he was racing at Thruxton with the British Touring Car Championship yesterday, so maybe his commitments have just meant that he can't do the race tonight. But still, 6 drivers who are here today who have all got a qualifying ban. But with that, qualifying is over. We will be able to give you your starting grid of this opening race for tonight here on RaceSpotTV. And well, it's a familiar sight on the front row of the grid, because Phil Dennis and Kei Kashube on the front row of the grid, with Ross McFarlane and Kenneth Branton on row number 2. Row 3, Aaron Rose and David Baker. Row number 4 then, it's Michael Evdoka with Alex Nella. Mike Horder, your top Pro-Am driver, in 9th place, with Ashla Finch sharing row number 5. Pete Harrod and Ross Nicholson share row number 6. Row 7 then, Ben Gregory and Andrew Shield with JB Masida and Christian Rose on row number 8. Your top AM driver, just a second off of the pro qualifying time, Bradley Hulls on pole position for the AM on row number 9 with Max Wolf. Row 10 for Ryan Hamilton and Andy Archer, with Brian Lyons and James Whitehouse on row number 11. Row 12 for Simon Underhill and Chris Van Den Ness. Row 13 for Michael Blake and John Roberts, with Lars Van Ryn and Simon Field on row number 14. Tom Stevens and Lee Berridge row number 15. Jonathan Walker, the one of the guys from 3M, well, Mr. 3M should I say, on 31st place ahead. Alongside him is Adam Hedgecock, with Chris Byram and Toby Ward on that set next row. Simon Nella and Lewis Archer then on row 18. And then the rest of your starters, all without times. You've got Josh Thompson, Oscar Cooper, Matt Turnbull, Jesse Jones, Matt Woodhouse, Adam Gladden and Nick Salaputis. Now, I do believe that Adam Gladden is not going to be taken to the start because of issues, mechanical issues with his pedals. So we are going to be missing out 1 driver on the grid here.
That's a great pity, but we're certainly not short-changed for entries, are we, Paul? With a huge array of GT3 machinery, and brilliant to see the World GT Championship in rude health.
Yeah, absolutely. 42 cars are taking to the grid here. big field. Everybody just biding their time, waiting. The pace car goes off to the right-hand side, and it's going to be Phil Dennis who is the one who sets the pace. They're waiting, they're patient, they're going to hold. Now they're going to go. Phil Dennis see the green flag, and we're underway for 40 minutes of racing here, down towards turn number 1. A quick right-hander, Keg Schube, Kenneth Branson and Ross McFarlane together. Now this is a place where you can maybe catch that inside curb and send yourself off. No, everybody's through. This is the first of the pinch points then, down at turn number 2, the hairpin. Again, everybody seeming to be behaving so far, which is great to see. And yeah, so far so good for keeping clean. Now the area that drivers were worried about is down to this corner, the hairpin. Seen of so many incidents over the years with late braking like that one down the inside of David Baker. That was Aaron Rose trying to get past, but not able to do that. And so far, so good, Peter. It's a clean opening first half of the lap at least.
I have to say, that's absolutely wonderful respect from all of the drivers there. It's so tight through those first 3 corners. They are good overtaking opportunities, but my, can you, like you mentioned the word pinch point, perfect description there, I have to say, Paul, because it's so easy to get tangled up. But leaders are through clean, and Ross McFarlane, who's, whoa, dearie me, take the words out of my mouth, is one of the Williams cars there. Wonder if that's Elias Seppinen.
No, it's Josh Thompson.
Oh dear, that's
Josh
big
Thompson.
Championship implications.
Josh Thompson and Jesse Jones, who of course had to start from the back of the grid, both of them, and they're getting tangled in the turn 8, which is I believe in the Mercedes arena sort of area, and they have tangled and got back underway, so they are still running full complement of the grid as we go across the line for the first time here. 38 minutes of action remaining, and as I say, we're having a good start to this one. Let's look at what happened, and well, they're side by side already here.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see what happens. And oh, it looks like Jones maybe loses it on the brakes, and then there's oh dear. So it's one of the Evo SR cars. Was that Max Wolf in the Porsche?
I wouldn't have thought so that far down. Possibly Tom Stevens, who would have been that far down on your grid. Jesse Jones has had to take to the pits. Now the drivers, they do get a free repair. They do get the chance to fully repair the car, so it's not the end of the day for Jesse, but he will be very disappointed with that incident. Well, frantic and frenetic in this opening so far in the World GT Championship, and well, certainly seeing some tremendous action. That I do believe is it's Andy Shield that we're looking at the moment, as there's a car around, and that was one of the Virage cars. There was also Simon Field, another Boosted car. So Boosted Virage and Boosted Motorsport both ended up off the track, and it was again at turn number 8.
Yeah, maybe that's the new pinch point we've got to watch out for in this race, or in this meeting, I should say, to be more correct. So let's get another look then. Let's see what happened to Simon Field here. So he's in the blue and black Mercedes AMG GT. Did he fall, or was he pushed? Oh, drills the car in front. That's
going to be awkward, because they're not teammates in this particular race, but they are both Boosted drivers, so they are at the same stable, so that's going to be an awkward conversation after this race. I mean, John usually does take on board when somebody does make a mistake, and he'll be like, okay, fair enough, you've apologised, let's get on with it. That's all you can really do, I suppose, is just apologise and try and move on.
Absolutely, that is all. You can certainly try that and hope that it's well received. There's a bit of action going there on the right hand side of Max Wolf. Now let's see, that's the Lamborghini and a Porsche. I think it's Masida in there. Yes, in there in the red and orange Team Mad Porsche, and the walls of Jericho. I can't see that the same way again. The Lamborghini in there as well alongside Masida. That's Ben Gregory. And a little mistake there for Masida. The Porsche getting a bit twitchy there again on the limit, Paul. Yeah,
just maybe a little bit of an error there, and well, Max Wolf is trying to get past Ben Gregory now. Gregory with a very, very aggressive defensive line, defensive move into the hairpin at turn number 6, sorry. So yeah, that was really an aggressive manoeuvre there from Ben, able to stay ahead of JB Masida, and in fact Masida loses out to Max Wolf, as you say. Across the line we go once again. Surprise, surprise, Phil Dennis with the fastest lap of the race so far, and well, he's trying to pull away at the front, but Keg Schubert has got a nice slipstream with him, and Ross McFarlane did in the end make it past Kenneth Gould-Branson, so up to 3rd place for your Season 9 champion, Ross McFarlane.
This is a fascinating championship story we've got developing here in the World GT Championship, because your race leader right now, Phil Dennis, he's done this a few times. He's maybe, you could argue that he's the man with the best pace over one lap, and leading from the front, he's almost unstoppable. But where Phil Dennis has come unstuck is in the perils of the reverse grids that we have here in the 2nd and 3rd races, usually in the World GT Championship. Whereas Ross McFarlane, he's kind of stealthed his way up to the top of the championship, hasn't he, Paul? Because he's not had the big, Hollywood performances, but he's just slowly gathered the points and steadily gathered the points. And of course, he's a former champion in the ARLTC series, where of course reverse grids are a big part of the mix. So I wonder if he's using that experience there of how to maximise every situation in these reverse grids and make that's taken him to the top of the championship at this moment in time.
Well, Ross is a very experienced driver in this series. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it is actually he's competed in every single season of this championship. He is well known and well versed in these GT3 cars. In fact, even when the series ran GTE cars, he was also very versed in that as well. So he is doing a sterling job, and that endurance race that we had in round number 3 really set him up nicely then for this portion of the championship. He got that win there, and that's just really set him apart.
Yeah, it's absolutely pivotal, I think, to his championship charge, and it's going to be fascinating to see how Ross McFarlane gets on. Of course, opting for the Lamborghini Huracan, which is a brilliant car on the twisty stuff, a brilliant car in the high-speed corners, but not necessarily the quickest in a straight line. That honour goes to the BMW. But of course, Paul, end of next week, we've got a big iRacing quarterly update, and usually that can flip the form book on its head.
Certainly can, as well, we saw Brian Lyons just lose out the position there to Matt Turnbull, who's already up 15 positions in this race from the back of the grid. So Matt, after having to serve a qualifying ban, has now got himself up to 24th place here so far. That's a sterling effort from him. But of course, the further up the grid you go here, Peter, the more difficult it gets to overtake people.
That's very true, absolutely. That's something that we see. Well, funny enough, another series which uses the reverse grid, the British Touring Car Championship, we do see that, where you get to a point where you hit the top of the bottle, you hit the cork in the bottle, depending who that is. Now, Mike Horder going slow here on circuit, serving a slowdown maybe?
Possibly, or maybe just having an issue out with that final corner. But he's certainly under pressure now, is Mike, and he's got the Craig setup shop car right behind him, putting pressure on, and trying to sort themselves out. Christian Rosen is behind and just touch that sausage curb that stops you from going out onto the drag strip there. But he did a good job to hold on to it, but it did lose him about 3 or 4 positions there.
That it did. I have to say, the Craig setup shop Porsche, now that livery looks good on lots of cars, but it looks very good on that Porsche, the white at the back. Very, very nice indeed, and equalled by the Evo SR. I can't, it shows you the way my brain works, Paul, the Tequila Patron-esque colours of Evo SR.
Well, as they get going around this, are in section through 9 and 10, and then through the right-hander in towards the older stadium section here. This is back to the the unmodified part of the track. Simon Underhill, I'm not going to commentate on him because every time I do I seem to put the kiss of death on him. He's battling with James Whitehouse, that is, and Oscar Cooper as well. Cooper is another driver who's fallen, who was at the back of the grid and is having to work his way through. Not through a penalty, but obviously had issues in qualifying, meant he's having to work his way through the grid. So Oscar finding himself down in 27th at the moment, but plus 11 places for the race so far as we ride on board. I'll briefly ride on board at least with him. Turn 1 sets you up beautifully then for turn 2. If you could get a good run out there, Peter, you can maybe have a look into this corner as Underhill is.
You can, yes, indeed. Underhill tries to go for the undercut in the BMW and just runs out of room. You've really got to get alongside quite early and get the move done early. Otherwise, it can end up being a bit messy and you can really compromise your lap time. I have to say, I prefer the look down here into the hairpin because you can have a look. Whoa, as we're having a big lunge on the brakes there. And the number 56 car up the inside, and that's a lovely maneuver, and you can do that without compromising the lap time as much, I think.
Oh, very, very close to contact between Simon Underhill and James Whitehouse. It was Oscar Cooper who made that move down the inside, and now he's got an angry Josh Thompson behind him. Jonathan Walker is coming through with him as well. Thompson's going to make this 3 wide into the stadium section. Not quite, but he's down the inside of Underhill, and Josh, he's in a hurry here. He wants to get as many places as possible before the reverse grid, and right now, Jonathan Walker, a robust move on Simon Underhill, gets himself through, and Underhill now is under pressure from Lee Berridge. So Boosted Motorsport driver trying to move forward in all of this, trying to take advantage of those drivers.
Oh, it is tough here in the mid-pack in the World GT Championship. You really have to make the most of your opportunities and play it smart, but Josh Thompson left with so much to do, starting from the back of the pack, but he's going to have a go at the turn 2 manoeuvre, gets it done very clean, and there is you do carry a little bit of a kind of, should we say, you know when you go through the airport, Paul, and you've got a priority card or a KLM gold card or something like that. British Airways Flying Blue or whatever.
I wouldn't know about that.
No, not anymore anyway. But when you do have one, you sail through the priority lane. When you're a championship front runner and you start from the back, there is a bit of an element of that, isn't there?
Well, people see you coming, and then it's if people will pick and choose their battles, and there's no point in fighting somebody who is maybe a second a lap quicker than you. You might as well just make it not easy for them, but so help facilitate them past, and then utilise their speed, maybe get a little bit of slipstream, see what lines they're running, and you might be able to just drag yourself forward there rather than fighting tooth and nail and slowing each other down.
You're so wise, Paul. I think you need to write a Paul Smith's Guide to Sensible Sim Driving. I think it would sell in
it would
the
sell
20s or 30s.
No, nobody's sensible when it comes to sim racing.
Well, that's why they need to. How to avoid silly accident with Paul Smith.
Well, Matt Turnbull is on to pit road, I can tell you on my timing screen. He's decided to head on to pit road. A little early, I would say, but maybe his thinking here is, I was in the mid-pack, get my mandatory pit stop out of the way, and then get yourself into free air and get going again. So, that's possibly what he is thinking at this point right now, get into some clean air and get going as, there you see on the left-hand side, Turnbull leaving pit road. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side of the screen, battle for second place is ongoing, and that's just allowing Phil Dennis to just sneak away a little bit there.
Yeah, this is where where you use that pit stop is absolutely vital, and that's where Phil Dennis, while he's got clean air out front, he's just going to keep going, and he's got a relative ally in the form of Kai Kashube right behind him. Of course, they are in slightly different colours, but they're both BS competition drivers, and well, at the moment, what do you think here, Paul? What's Ross McFarlane's view here? Is he comfortable sitting there, or is he hanging on by the fingernails?
I mean, we've seen him in the endurance events. In fact, he ran a little bit wide there through turn number 1. But we've seen him in the endurance events time and time again just happily sit behind somebody, wait until those pit stops, and then with the fuel that he's saved, have a shorter pit stop, put into a quick laps, and before you know it, he's jumped them and about 3 other people. So that's what we've seen previously from Ross. Here comes Josh Thompson now. Maybe he's heard what I was saying about getting out of the traffic and getting some clean air. He's decided to come onto pit road and get his pit stop done.
Are you saying, Paul Smith, that World Championship sim racer Josh Thompson has got Radio Paul Smith on in his ear?
You never know. Stranger things have happened, that's for sure.
But it's a great point about Ross McFarlane. In that Lamborghini, it's a great way to do it as well, because it's got fantastic corner speed. It's just a superb car through the bends. But down the straight, it really can't live with the BMW. However, in the draft of the BMW, it can hang on. So actually, also, Ross McFarlane will be able to be pretty gentle on the tyre as well, I would suspect. So you're right, Paul. I think he's in a very good position here. I think he's having to push to just keep on the back of Kai Kashubi, but doing so and just saving that little bit more fuel than the car in front. Now, what we won't know until we see Phil Dennis come into pit lane is what his fuel mileage is like. Given that he's pulled out a 1.3 second advantage over his teammate, I would think he's on full attack.
I think everybody is on full attack. I mean, Phil Dennis certainly, he's on full attack just to try and break that slipstream and try and get ahead of Kashubi, because if he can break that slipstream, he's got a good opportunity of pulling away then and getting that to work. But yeah, certainly they will be working together. Tom Stevens was just showing the stationary on my timing sheet there, and he's just having a look. He's on pit road right now, so I wonder if he's had a little issue trying to get onto pit road. It's a tricky pit road to get onto here, isn't it? Because you have to really hook it in tight after the penultimate corner.
Yeah, they certainly wouldn't be the first time we'd seen an accident of cars getting a bit confused with the pit entry, where one going in and one not, and they can get collected together, and oh dear. Oh. Well, after you. No, after you. No, after you, sir.
I think they both decided, well, we're here, we might as well go down pit road and get our service done.
Minimise the damage. That's also maybe if there was a little bit of contact there, which I think there was, maybe just take your repair as well. That's so. Actually, what could have been a lot worse there for those two drivers. But this is the battle for the top 15. Ben Gregory in the Lamborghini with the full light package on at the front. It's got the full Group B rally headlights at the front of that Lamborghini as well, with Max Wolf in at the black and green Evo SR Porsche, with JB Masida, the car we're running on board with right now for Team Mad. And oh, what a noise, the 4-litre flat 6 of the Porsche 911 GT 3R, a car that will have done quite a bit of testing here, I would imagine, in its early days.
Yeah, it will have, absolutely. It's a tremendous car, and certainly does make a really nice, pleasing noise. Now, what are we seeing here? This is Simon Field! Oh, and that's a huge impact with the wall. That's the engine gone. Now, luckily, if he can get that back to the pit lane, he can get a free repair. Meanwhile, second place battle is on here. Ross McFarlane trying to make the move down at the hairpin. It's not happened. If you're Phil Dennis now, you want to try and run away from these two because they're tripping over each other. McFarlane to second place.
Good move there from Ross McFarlane, and he's just decided to pull the pin and go. I wonder, Kai Kashubi didn't put up too much of a fight there. Be interesting to see what he does now. I wonder if he's thinking, okay, I've towed you round for long enough, now it's my turn. Maybe Kai Kashubi's looking at his fuel number and thinking, I'm going to spend too long in the pit lane here filling up. So, let's see how this one's going to pan out now as well. But tell you what, Kai Kashubi is going to have to really push through the bends here because, you just look how it's just visibly just corners flatter the Lamborghini Huracan. It's a wonderful car in the corners, but that BMW is just a dragster. And I think, Paul, that is just what makes GT3 racing, both in the outdoor and the virtual form. That's what makes it so exciting, because there's a lot of different ways to get to the same lap time.
Absolutely. Well, it is a BMW leads, Lamborghini second, BMW third, and Porsche rounding out the top four. Kenneth Gulbranson, don't count him out of this yet. The Porsche maybe isn't favoured on this section here, this long back section where you're really getting up to VMAX, and it doesn't really suit the Porsche. But in other parts of the track, that Porsche will really come to life around here. McFarlane, a little bit wide through the hairpin, but he should be okay because he gets on the power that little bit earlier out of the hairpin. Well, the headlights are flashing. That means, would you kindly move over here, Peter?
Well, there's that's just a sight you get immune to on the British highways, of a BMW on your tail flashing the lights furiously. Not using the indicator, mind you, even though it's on the same stock as the headlight flasher. But anyway, we'll gloss over that. But it's not perturbing Ross McFarlane at all. But Kai Kashubi, I'm not entirely sure what the source of that headlight flash was about, to be honest. But anyway, Ross McFarlane not pulling away from Kai Kashubi, but that little exchange there, Paul, that's put three quarters of a second in Phil Dennis's bank, and that could prove a pivotal time loss in this motor race.
Well, that means that he's broken the slipstream there. So,
good point.
So he's got what he wanted. Now he can set his own pace and really just look forward and try and pull away in all of this. McFarlane and Kashubi, they're fighting it out, as I can tell you, Andy Scheel is now onto pit road for his mandatory pit stop. Of course, everybody does have to take a mandatory pit stop in this race, so we're just past the halfway point here of this opening race of two this evening. So once this race ends, do stick around, everybody, because we've got another 40-minute race coming up with an inverted grid that we will have decided live here on the broadcast. But I can tell you right now, it is Phil Dennis who leads this one now by 1.9 to 2 seconds ahead of Ross McFarlane that we see on screen now with Kai Kashubi. Kenneth Gulbranson fourth, and David Baker in fifth place. He's just dropped back that little bit. He'll come into the shot in the background there in that red Lamborghini. So he's dropped back from this lead battle with Aaron Rose in 6th place. Your top Pro-Am driver is Ross Nicholson in 11th place. There he is for the Sim Stickers outfit. He's got also behind him Mike Horder in 2nd place in Pro-Am. He's 12th place, and then Christian Rose, the 3rd place Pro-Am driver, in 13th place. We've got battling still going on with Max Wolf and Ben Gregory. Again, 2 more Pro-Am drivers with JB Maceda. So it's a real Pro-Am stacked sort of 11th through to 16th. Ryan Hamilton is your top amateur driver in 17th place at the moment. Your next amateur driver on track is Michael Blake in 21st, with James Whitehouse in 22nd. So those are your top 3s in each class of driver out there at the moment, and it really does, it gives everybody out there on this track an opportunity to fight for a championship, and that's what draws so many people to this series, Peter.
Absolutely, I think it's and I think the field is wonderfully balanced as well. In terms of the separation of the 3 classes between Pro-Am, and Am. And if there is a driver who's maybe punching above their weight, they can be promoted, and that's the case with Max Wolf, our Pro-Am leader. Don't forget, he started off in the Am category as well, so he's had an amazing season as the young Dutchman as well. But he's in the middle of quite an intense fight at the moment, so I hope he's got his 3M racing gloves on to keep cool under pressure here as well. Maybe, I bet you he's been taking advantage of the 20% discount that was on offer. Is it still on offer?
It's still on offer, but it's while stocks last. I did have a look on there a little while ago, and yes, the There is still 20% off the 3M sim gloves, so check out the 3M website for details on that, but it's while stocks last. So if you do want to get yourself a pair of gloves, do it now rather than wait until the end of this broadcast, then get your order in. But
now, question for you, Paul: do you wear them when you're manhandling trains around the virtual Great Britain?
No, I don't wear them for that. But for racing in, where you've got that real intensity, where you need to keep a grip of your wheel, then that helps. Max Wolf onto pit road. He's decided to pull the trigger in that battle. He couldn't get past Ben Gregory all of this race. 25 minutes, call it. He was stuck behind Ben Gregory, so he's decided to pit now. And we're starting to get a few more drivers. Alex Nella, there he is, leaving pit road right now, and Brian Lyons is on pit road as well. So a few more drivers deciding that now is the time to pull the trigger and come into pit road. But with about 14 and a half minutes remaining, time is running out, and the drivers, they'll want to pit as late as possible if they've got clear air. And do you know what? Ross McFarlane has actually pulled out a gap over Kei Kashube in second and third place battle, as we see more battling going on, and that is Chris van der Ness in the Evo SR car battling away with Ryan Hamilton and Oscar Koper.
I wonder if there's a number of drivers that have put the preparation in and are working to a certain fuel number, a certain strategy, and are just trying to work out what's the best policy. And if someone's going to maybe look at a little bit faster, maybe sometimes it's better to let them go. Of course, this isn't the sprint race that we're used to, the 3 20-minute races. We've got two kind of feature races here of 40 minutes in length, so you don't have to really fight every last corner like you would in one of the shorter races. Sometimes the whole context is better to keep an eye out. Now pit lane getting very busy with I think it's Michael Avdoka coming in the Mercedes for sim lap.
It's Ashley Finch actually,
my apologies.
His teammate. Very easy to get confused between the two of them. Ashley Finch on pit road, Ross Nicholson, Ben Gregory, Christian Rose, Michael Blake, Jonathan Walker, Adam Hedgecock, John Roberts, they're all on pit road this lap. So as you say, pit road getting busier and busier out there. And, it's usually around the last 10 minutes where you see those front runners head on to pit road and make their mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, let's see when that's going to happen. But Phil Dennis in the number 98 BMW M4 marching ahead. Now I wonder, I think we are not far away from the BMW M4 GT3 making its outdoor debut at the Nürburgring. It was actually scheduled to debut a month or two ago, but unfortunately a crash in practice did kind of set them back a bit. But race debut on the way, I believe.
I can tell you, by the way, looking at the timing screen, that Max Wolf and Ben Gregory have come out of pit road together. One lap between them with pit stops, and Matt Turnbull is involved in that one as well. There you see that battle on the right hand side. So Turnbull has got past Wolf there with that one, as Michael Avdoka now heads onto pit road as well as Mike Horder. So you can see in the left hand timing tower, you can see where it says pit. So that means that the drivers are on pit road, so you could keep up to date with that, or you could click on the link to the live timing as well, RaceSpot.tv/timing, for keeping up to date with all of the live timing of this race. So intense battle, and Ben Gregory, he'll be glad that he was able to come out the pit road ahead of Max Wolf and keep him behind, because Max was trying to get the jump on Ben.
He certainly gave it a go, that's for sure, but he's going to have to do it on the track. Is Max Wolf in the Porsche getting past the Pure Sims Lamborghini of Ben Gregory? And both cars got their points where they're good. You can see the Lamborghini of Ben Gregory really impressive through the fast turn one, really keeping that corner speed up. But in the slower technical parts, the Porsche is pretty good and has brilliant acceleration off the corners as well. So we'll see if Max Wolf, I don't think he's going to be close enough to have a look this lap, but we'll see how that one pans out. Now, I can confirm that Michael Abdoka has had his pit stop now, and in fact they're both on camera right now, or were, Ashley Finch and Michael Abdoka this time. But Ben Gregory, he's the man on the move, Paul. He's charging ahead.
Well, that's actually Matt Turnbull in the Peter Sims car.
Oh, my
Well, they're both blue and white cars, to be fair, because the Three Spires Motorsports driver of Ben Gregory, with the walls of Jericho, as you call it, on the side of the car, is behind. Now, Phil Dennis, we've got a pit party. Pretty much the entirety of the front of the field now on pit road. Phil Dennis comes out first. Ross McFarlane second, with Kei Kashube in third. Kenneth Branton in fourth. So they've stayed as they are. David Baker and Aaron Rose again, they've stayed as they are as well. Pete Harrod is on pit road, as well as Oscar Cooper. JB Masida, you've got Chris van der Ness as well. So we've got a real pit party, but these are the final pit stops of those drivers who needed to make a pit stop. Away they go. So we'll be able to give you an updated rundown of the order once everything just sorts itself out, the drivers out of pit road. Toby Ward onto pit road, and Jesse Jones, of course, having to make a second pit stop because he wasn't going to make it to the end with the damage that he got on lap number 1, with that tangling between himself and Josh Thompson. But looking at this battle then, it's Evdoka, Finch, Nella and Pete Harrod. So 3 SimLabs drivers, 3 Apuna Sims SimLab drivers, all ganging up on the Boosted Motorsports driver of Alex Nella here.
That's not fair. That's not fair. That's bullying. Gathering all around there, around Alex Nella. I have to say, one of the best looking cars in the championship. That boosted Lamborghini looks absolutely superb, I have to say. Now, in that pit stop sequence, Phil Dennis just lost a few tenths of a second to Ross McFarlane. The gap back down to 1.5 seconds. And we said it before, Paul, I think that little bit of a skirmish, the margins are so tight at the front, that little skirmish between McFarlane and Kashube could be absolutely pivotal to either of those drivers making a challenge towards Phil Dennis in the last part of this race. But with 8 minutes to go, gap sits at 1.3 seconds. Ross McFarlane, he's got an opportunity.
But you've got to consider that the lap times that the front 4 have all been doing, they've all pretty much been even, haven't they? There's been the odd tenth of a second here and there difference between them, so it's going to be incredibly difficult for Ross to be able to catch up that time in 8 minutes remaining in this race. Can tell you as well, Pro-Am lead has stayed the same. Ross Nicholson in 11th with Mike Horder in 12th, although we did see Mike Horder having to defend from Andy Shield a little bit earlier on. And Christian Rose, 14th place, is the 3rd place Pro-Am driver. Your Am drivers, I can tell you, looking at the timing sheet, I believe that's Andy Archer is the 1st place Am driver. Find him down in 21st, battling with Josh Thompson and Oscar Cooper. Then it's Ryan Hamilton in 23rd and Bradley Hulse in 25th. Michael Blake has dropped down the order in the Am standings, so he was further up the field, was Michael, and yet no move being made. There we can see on screen right now as Christian Rose, he's made his way past Andy Shield and is looking at the back of that boosted Farage car of Mike Horder in front for 12th place.
6 minutes and 50 seconds to go here at the Hockenheimring, race 1 of the World GT Championship. Do not go anywhere, we've got another race coming up shortly with the reverse grid, the spinny wheel reverse grid, and well, that's where we're going to see then with our front runners, Paul. Yes, at the moment they're separated, like you said, between not by 1/10 of a second but by 100ths of a second per lap. But in the unpredictability of the reverse grid, that will certainly shake up those top 3 or 4.
Certainly will, and again, it's who can make their way through the field the quickest in that second race as to those top championship contenders, whereas it's also keeping yourself out of trouble. I mean, we mentioned it at the top of the broadcast, 7 people got back of the got qualifying bans because of events of last week at the Red Bull Ring. So, you know, there were penalties handed out aplenty to those who took part last week that had to serve it this week. So speaking of one of those drivers. Josh Thompson has moved up to 20th place, up 17 positions. Matt Turnbull was another one of those drivers who started from the back of the grid. He's up 24 positions in 15th. So tremendous drive from him. So great driving, and it shows how you can work your way through. At Hockenheim, it's a little bit easier to work your way through than, say, the Red Bull Ring.
Yes, it is. I think Hockenheim's a fantastic circuit for overtaking. You can actually make some good moves here, which, yeah, you're absolutely right, Paul. Looking at the pit stop times there for a second, Ross McFarlane pulled out, it was 0.6 of a second in the pit lane. So, although there is a fuel-saving game to be played sometimes, Paul, I think in a 40-minute race, the margins are maybe so slight that maybe not necessarily worth it, perhaps.
We'll have to see how it all pans out. He has been gaining slightly on Phil Dennis, it must be said, throughout this final part of the race. But, as we mentioned, the times, there's literally hundredths of a second difference. I mean, Phil Dennis on his last lap did a 1:37.474, whereas Ross McFarlane did a 1:37.427. So it's just hundredths of a second of difference between them. This is what you get with the top level of sim racing right here.
You couldn't put a 3M sim racing glove between them.
You're really shilling that. You're trying to hold out for some for something to be sent your way, isn't it?
Just giving the sponsors their value and activation, Paul.
Well, what we are seeing is still this battle with Alex Nella being ganged up on by the three Pure Sims Sim Labs cars as they head on through into the old stadium section. So there you go, there's the battle. Then you see 7th place, Michael Evdoka, Ashley Finch, Alex Nella and Pete Harrod. Harrod runs wide through Sachs curve right there. Alex Nella, of course, a race winner with us here this season, a multiple race winner in the championship in total, but this season did get a race win in that opening round at Phillip Island. He'll be looking to try and take advantage of that Lamborghini around here, but with time running out, he's got to make a move sooner rather than later here.
That he does, and one driver who could potentially make a move is Ross McFarlane. He is, you're right, he is actually pulling the gap down to Phil Dennis. That gap now sits around 0.8 of a second, so Ross McFarlane now in the draft of the big BMW of Phil Dennis. So how is this one going to play out? It's going to need a Herculean effort from Ross McFarlane to get close enough to make that move in these last probably two to go when they come over the line. He's certainly close enough to make Phil Dennis work for this one, Paul.
He gained just short of a couple of thousandths of a second off of 0.2 of a second last lap, did Ross McFarlane. So call it 0.2 of a second between the two of them in time gained.
That's a week in this context.
Yes, absolutely. McFarlane, as you rightly say, does have the slipstream, but through this section of the course and through these types of corners, it's really going to work his tyres more than Phil Dennis. And Dennis has had that benefit of clean air to maybe not work his tyres quite as hard. As there we see a move on the right hand side of your screen. I believe that's Van der Ness and Andy Archer battling away. And yes, it is. So that's over 21st place. And right behind them is Brian Lyons in the Lamborghini and Ryan Hamilton as well. So plenty of battles going on throughout this field. The intriguing battle at the front. It's getting closer, but it's not close enough at the moment for what Ross McFarlane needs. He needs to be right onto the tail of that BMW M4 GT3 for him to be able to take advantage and try and make a move on the last lap. But he does seem to do well into that hairpin.
Yeah, I tell you what, McFarlane pulled out 0.3 of a second on the straight there from the BMW, so that's the draft coming into effect. And well, maybe the BMW of Dennis maybe running a little bit more wing, possibly. He's got the horsepower to kind of push through it, but maybe needs the wing to get through the twisty section, whereas the natural balance of the Lamborghini can afford to maybe run it a little bit slipperier. Who knows? But the end result is Ross McFarlane is getting close enough to put Phil Dennis under some real pressure here, and I think they may have a bit of lap traffic to contend with on the last lap. Quite possibly there's a Mercedes up ahead, and if they don't necessarily get the courtesy from the lap car, well, that could give Ross McFarlane his opportunity to pounce. And now this is the closest he's been all race as we go into the last lap, Paul.
McFarlane will be praying that James Whitehouse just pulls over and lets them by rather than giving Dennis a slipstream. We saw in the bottom right hand corner of your screen the battle between Brian Lyons and also that was Ryan Hamilton. Those two have sorted themselves out. McFarlane needs the good run here. It didn't look the best through turn 2, but I do believe that BMW is getting a little bit of a slipstream from the Mercedes in front, and that's going to help Phil down here, but he does feel the need to maybe go a little bit in the middle of the road onto the brakes, and that Lamborghini looks so good on the brakes here. That could give him an opportunity into turn number 8 here. So we're on board with Ross McFarlane right now. See Phil Dennis, the grunt of that BMW, just pulling away out the corner through 7 into 8, not close enough to make a move. Dennis holding the middle of the road there. That's going to compromise his line. You can visibly see how close Ross McFarlane is to him, but it becomes incredibly difficult to make any moves through this final section of the track into the stadium section. That Mercedes is still in front. Ross McFarlane needs a mistake from Phil Dennis for him to try and make a move and make it past, and I don't think it's going to happen here. Just 2 more corners for these 2 leaders to make it to the end of the race, and Phil Dennis is going to hang on to this one. It's the 3M by Williams in XBS who's going to win this one, but only just. He was put under pressure all the way to the end by Ross McFarlane. Kei Kashube is going to finish in 3rd place, and Ashley Finch is trying to hold off Alex Nella. Nella moves up a place. In fact, Finch moves down a couple of places. Pete Harrod makes his way past, and Finch luckily keeps it out the wall as there goes one of the SimStickers cars. That's Ross Nicholson, your top Pro-Am. So your Pro-Am winner has moved up into 10th place here in the race. Your AM leader right now is Andy Archer, who is coming through the final couple of corners as well. He's just ahead of Brian Lyons at the front of this queue of cars, and he will take your AM victory in 21st place overall. But excitement on that last lap, Peter, as we see what happened here to Max Wolf, and it's Josh Thompson getting into him.
Oh, a little bit of a tangle there. I wonder maybe that it'd be interesting to see that from a different angle there, because this just seemed to happen quite quickly there. Max Wolf turning in for the bank curve there, and whoa, it's an awkward one there. It looked like Josh Thompson was going for the dive. This is a perfect aerial shot. Here we go.
Oh, that's not on.
No, I agree. Yeah, that's a bit. I don't want to say naughty because I know it wasn't intentional, but oh, Josh Thompson, he could be in further trouble. And could this be a key part in the championship for the Williams eSports driver, Paul? Because little things like that aren't going to go down well with the stewards, and he can't afford to keep starting at the back.
Exactly, that's true. Well, we will get to see what the inverted grid position will be first of all, before we then have a look at the final results, and the wheel gets spun by Hugo behind the scenes here as the wheel slows down, and it's not going to be a full reverse grid. It might even be quite a small reverse grid, or is it? Is it going to tick over? It is. It's going to be 27th place, so we'll give you that once we get to it in the results here. But 27th place is going to be on pole position for race number 2. So here are your results from the World GT Championship race 1 of the evening. Phil Dennis then, who wins that one, but only just by 0.3 of a second ahead of Ross McFarlane. Kei Kashube rounds out the top 3, and he was able to hang on to that position ahead of Kenneth Gulbranton. David Baker just finishing ahead of Aaron Rose, 5th and 6th place respectively. Michael Avdoka 7th ahead of Alex Nella. Pete Harrod and Ross Nicholson, your top Pro-Am driver, in 10th place. Ashley Finch 11th ahead of the next two Pro-Am drivers, Mike Horder and Christian Rose, with Matt Turnbull, Andy Shield, JB Masida, Ben Gregory, Josh Thompson with a little bit of a controversial moment there at the end in 18th, Oscar Koper 19th and Chris van der Ness in 20th place. 21st is the leading AM driver, Andy Archer. Great AM win for him, ahead of Brian Loynes and Max Wolf, the recovering Max Wolf after that contact. Michael Blake is the second place of the AM drivers, with Bradley Hulse in third place in AM, 24th and 25th. 26th, and sharing the front row is Lee Berridge, but on pole position for race number 2 is the Immortal driver of Mark Woodhouse. So what an opportunity for Mark to get himself some good points. Everyone else behind will start where they finished. Adam Hedgecock, John Roberts and Tom Stevens in 30th place. 31st for Jonathan Walker with Toby Ward and Chris Byram. Simon Underhill, Jesse Jones, who had a nightmare out there after an incident with Josh Thompson on lap number 1. Ryan Hamilton, Nick Salapurtis, Lars van Rijn, the last of the drivers on the lead lap. Then, one lap down or more, it is James Whitehouse and Simon Neller, 39th and 40th place. Simon Field did finish the race in the end after getting his free repair. And Lewis Archer and Adam Gladden did not take the start, did Adam? But that is the end of the first race of the evening here, Peter, and we had plenty of action out there, and to be honest, a relatively clean race as well.
Very much so, yeah. Of course, you're always going to get little things that happen on the last lap. I think that's natural, but what a drive from both the front guys, actually. Phil Dennis controlled that really well. He didn't panic, he didn't make the mistake. But big props to Ross McFarlane, because he ran him down really hard in those last few laps and played the strategy of that race perfectly. And one more lap, who knows what might happen. Ross McFarlane was right on the back of Phil Dennis there, but likewise didn't try anything silly, didn't try a 20% move, and but followed him all the way to the flag. And now we're going to see, there's a tiny bit of points there between Phil Dennis. He's going to climb that little bit further up to the top of the championship, but now we're going to see them coming through the pack, and that is where we're going to see who's going to be getting the jump in this championship.
Yeah, it's going to be intriguing to see how it all pans out, of course, because with Josh Thompson starting at the back of the grid and getting involved in more than one incident today, we're not saying he was at fault for all of the incidents. That's up to the stewards to look at during the week. But you can't afford, when you're in a championship battle, you can't afford to get involved with silly little errors like that.
No, you don't. But I think when you're coming through from the back of the grid, it's just almost impossible to avoid them. I think that's the danger, because if you're a championship front runner, particularly, it's the most damaging, isn't it? Because you are as far away from your fellow competitors as possible, so you've got to try and make your way through. But it's amazing how wide you can make a race car if you want it to be. And we saw that in British touring cars yesterday at Thruxton. It doesn't matter if someone's faster, you can plonk the car in the right place. You can keep the position, and that's motorsport, isn't it? So, yeah, for Josh Thompson, it's a really difficult one, isn't it? And I think that punishment it's cost him dearly.
Absolutely. Now, of course, that's race 1 done. We've got another race to go, an inverted grid. We mentioned it briefly in that first race coverage, how those top drivers, the drivers who have finished in the top 10 there, how they work through the field here is going to decide who gets the best out of this week's racing.
Yep, I will say it once, I'll say it again. I feel like I'm a worn-out record here, Paul, but it's going to be the reverse grid races that decide this championship. It's not going to be the qualifying order, it's not going to be the race ones, it's going to be the reverse grid races, and that's why Phil Dennis is not leading this championship as we came into this meeting. He's been one of, if not the fastest driver over a qualifying lap, and indeed in a race from the front of the grid. In fact, you have to give the American driver a huge amount of credit of just how good he is under pressure and in control. But cutting through the pack, that's an unpredictable beast, as we've found out.
Certainly is, and he's learning the hard way, isn't he, about these inverted grids, and it's how quickly you react and how you adapt to those situations. It's really what makes you stand out. Somebody who's been relatively quiet throughout this championship, apart from that opening round of the championship at Phillip Island, David Baker getting himself a solid 5th place in that opening race. He'll be pleased to get some really good points there. He'll be itching. He wants to get further up if he wants to give a championship fight here.
And David Baker's got that championship fight in him, I think. He's had some rotten luck, actually, in a few of the races where he there's rotten luck and there's being involved in an incident. He's just had pure rotten luck a few times. And I think he's definitely got the pace to do it. And if he can keep his nose clean, you can let the other guys make the mistakes. We've seen that there's a lot of drivers who've been amazing coming through the pack and then make a mistake and get tangled up towards the end. So, I think David Baker is, like you say, quietly working his way back into contention, and he deserves to be in that championship fight.
Now, it's worth pointing out, Ross Nicholson, great drive from the Pro-Am drivers, finishing 10th place overall, getting himself that Pro-Am win. He'll be delighted with that performance because he did get a little bit of separation over the other Pro-Am drivers. And with this championship, wherever you finish in race, those are the points that you take towards your class. So that is crucial for someone like Ross to be able to get that 10th place.
And of course, don't forget his championship rival Max Wolf, arguably through no fault of his own, kind of lost a number of places on that last lap, and those points are, they're critical. They really are critical. They add up, especially for the Pro-Am drivers, because when you score big, it makes you can take huge leaps through the field, because of course they're normally fighting for the sort of midfield. We've got Pro-Am and Am, so by nature, Pro-Am are always in the midfield normally. But if you can get into that top division, or if you can climb up into the top 10, it's a double Brucey bonus.
Absolutely. And Andy Archer as well, the top amateur driver, finishing 21st overall in that previous race. He's going to have quite a few of his championship rivals starting in front of him, though, in this inverted grid. So he finds himself relatively close to the front of the grid, but he's got those championship rivals right up there with him who are going to potentially score big in this race as well.
Potentially score big, but usually we find if we get a group of AM drivers at the front of the field before in race 2 or in the reverse grid races, very few of them finish there. And if you can finish even in the top 10 as an AM driver, very likely that you'll be the class winner, or certainly scoring an enormous haul of points. So sometimes managing expectation is the trick there, I think, for the AM guys. They're not trying to be the hero and try and win the race outright, because that's probably a silly thing to try. So you're best to just try and maximise that opportunity of starting so far up the grid. And they need to take a leaf out of the Paul Smith book of driving is what they need to do.
Absolutely, I am open to publishers, by the way, for that.
We've got to find you one. Yeah.
We're about 4 minutes away from the grid for the second race of the evening. So what's the approach that you take if you're somebody who's maybe got involved in an incident in that opening race? Say like Jesse Jones, what approach do you take if you're starting all the way back down the grid in the mid-30s? What's your mentality if you're the driver?
Well, that's a situation I'm used to, so I hope I can give some expert analysis here of what it's like to start all the way back. I think you maybe just got to use your options, I suppose, because if you've got clean air and things are going well, carry on. But if you're getting tangled up and you're getting stuck behind somebody, just take a pit stop. Take your pit stop early, get it out of the way, and just try and find clean air from yourself, because as we saw, it can be a pretty attritional place, that back part of the grid, let me tell you.
It certainly can, absolutely. It's tremendous. As drivers are in warm-up right now, we get to see the setting sun. It's getting towards the evening here in sim time. It's about 7:30 in the evening, so track temperature is going to be a bit cooler for the drivers out there. It's mostly cloudy sky as well, so that will keep things nice and cool, so we don't need to worry about how the tyres are going to be working out. But it would be good to actually see the track layout. We've been seeing all the action out there on track, but to really point out, you know, what when people look at the map of this track, they see that it's really sharp corners, long sweeping bends and high speed into a sharp hairpin, then another acceleration, high speed into a sharp corner. This really does have all the hallmarks of a Herman Tilke track, doesn't it?
Only that it's exciting. sorry, Herman. I mean, I think it's a superb track. Yeah, Hockenheimring. I wish it was used a little bit more. I think it'd be fantastic for bikes, actually. I think it would make a really good bike circuit, because you could have some, imagine top rack Razgati-Oglu on the brakes into the hairpin, just dive bombing through. That'd be cool. I wonder if the IDM run here, the German Superbike Championship. I'm sure they must do.
That is well out of my wheelhouse.
That's a trivia question.
I stick firmly on four wheels myself. I don't venture onto two wheels, but it's certainly a tremendous venue. But I will say, Herman Tilke, he did make one good track, which was the Sepang track in Malaysia. That was actually a really good track. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. And what I love about Sepang is, again, two wheels. When the MotoGP goes there, I haven't been for a while, unfortunately, with COVID, but the one thing about Sepang is, if you go there, the crowd at Sepang, you will not get a more excitable and passionate crowd for motorcycle racing, in particular at Sepang. But it's even for cars, of course. Formula One used to go there as well. It's a wonderful facility, right beside Kuala Lumpur Airport. So it's a good one to do if you fancy a holiday to go. You fly into Kuala Lumpur Airport, the track's right there, and direct train from downtown Kuala Lumpur, which I can report has some fantastic eateries and also drinkeries as well.
I shall take your word for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on tonight's coverage of the World GT Championship, brought to you in association with 3M, also in association with Pure Sims and Simortal as well. So thank you very much to those outfits for supporting this championship, and 3M with their continued support of this championship. It's great to have them on as a partner in this championship. And well, we're getting ready for the start of the second race. We haven't got long to fire through the grid either, so I'm gonna have to be on quick time here. So it's Matt Woodhouse and Lee Berridge who share the front row of the grid, with Bradley Hulse and Michael Blake on row number 2. Row 3, it is Max Wolf and Brian Lyons. Row number 4, Andy Archer with Chris van der Ness. Row 5 is Oscar Koper and Josh Thompson. Row 6, then Ben Gregory and JB Masida. Row 7, Andy Shield, Matt Turnbull with Christian Rose, Mike Horder, Ashley Finch and Ross Nicholson. Row number 9, Pete Harrod, Alex Neller. Row number 10. Row 11, it is Michael Evdoka with Aaron Rose. David Baker and Kenneth Gould Branson share the next row with Kate Schube and Ross McFarlane, 25th, 26th. And Phil Dennis back there in 27th place. Everybody else starting where they finished. So you have got Adam Hedgecock, John Roberts, Tom Stevens, Jonathan Walker, Toby Ward, Chris Byram, Simon Underhill, Jesse Jones down in 35th, Ryan Hamilton, Nick Salapurtis, Lars van Rijn, James Whitehouse, Simon Eller and Simon Field rounding out your 41 car grid as the drivers roll away, getting ready for the start of this second race of the evening. And all the pressure is on Mark Woodhouse at the front of that field. How long can the Pro-Am driver hold on to first place? He's got a few AMs between him and the first of the pros, which is Oscar Koper. Koper's looking for a really good race, but Josh Thompson, 10th place, he could be a good shout for this race. Through the final corner then, you can see the Porsche Experience Centre out there at the entry to the stadium section. Green flag in the air, and we are racing once again here in the World GT Championship. Down towards turn 1 then, and there's contact, and Josh Thompson is involved. That's a huge incident. Well, can they all make it through? The answer is yes, but Josh Thompson goes from bad to worse for the Manxman, and yes, that's it. He's going to have to take a tour back to the pits, Peter.
That really is a disaster for Josh Thompson. No idea what happened to him there. Just caught up in the melee. Now, I may have caught a different Pure Sims Lamborghini, but I wonder if Ross McFarlane had to take some serious evasive action there to avoid the carnage, and that may well have pushed him down the order, but we'll keep an eye on that to see where they go, see if we can see him come up on our timing screen. Ross McFarlane, yes, he's in 28th place, so right where he started.
Well, I can tell you that JB Masida was the Team Mad driver that Josh did end up taking into the wall with him, and Jesse Jones got caught up in all of that, so he started further back than Jesse, and unfortunately for him, couldn't avoid the incident out there. We've got Toby Ward facing the wrong way in the Three Spires Motorsports car. He's back up and underway. And meanwhile, Brian Lyons is battling away with Max Wolf there for that 5th and 6th place.
Opportunist move there from the number 81 Porsche of Max Wolf, just nipping through at the stadium section. That's really tight and narrow through there, so really good move there from Max Wolf. I have to say that is very opportunist indeed, but he moves through into 5th place overall, 2nd in class. The leader overall, Mark Woodhouse, you know, he's leading the Pro-Am class, but with 3 AM drivers, Berridge, Hulse and Blake behind. Now, our Race 1 leader, Race 1 winner, I should say, Phil Dennis, what a start from the American, up to 16th. So, what's that, 11 places gained. What a start from Dennis.
Yeah, he's on a charge, isn't he? Absolutely. Is on the move. I would love to see a replay of what happened there at the start. We'll surely bring you that once everything has just calmed down a little bit out there on track. Matt Turnbull moving his way past into 9th place. Oscar Kerper, who I said was one of those drivers that we'll be keeping an eye out on as your top pro driver in the grid. Well, he's still in 8th place. He's only moved up 1 place so far, and there was a Pure Sims carried setup shop car off. There you go, it's Christian Rose. He's ended up in the runoff out of turn number 8, so I think he was helped out there. They're on the brakes. Oh, and that's
by Phil Dennis. Oh my giddy aunt.
Well,
this championship just continues to throw up controversy, really. Phil Dennis, I'm sure, will be getting a chat from the stewards, because that number 193, that car is crabbing.
Yeah, it is. Well, looking at the front here, by the way, Matt Woodhouse and Bradley Hulse, they've got a little bit of a gap between themselves and Lee Berridge at the moment. And if they can really work together, not fight too hard, they can get a bit of a gap here that would help them get a really, really good result out of all of this. Also with a little bit of a connection trouble, but he's there with us now. But Woodhouse leading this one in the Immortal liveried Team Mad car. Down towards the hairpin he goes, and Hulse looking to the inside in the Year 1 car. He's looking for the lead. A little bit deep, makes contact with Woodhouse. Well, Barge, thank you very much. I'll take the lead now.
Certainly a pretty bold call there from Bradley Hulse. Now, if you're going to make that move, as you rightly pointed out, Paul, it was a great opportunity for Hulse and Woodhouse to try and pull away and try and gain time while there's chaos going on behind. But Hulse obviously feels that he's got the pace to pull away from Mark Woodhouse, but he'll have to make the most of it. Otherwise, they'll be right back into the clutches of the chasing pack.
Cooper can't get past Van der Ness. Van der Ness, we've seen in the past, of course, very astute defender, holding that inside line. Cooper can't get alongside. Kashube and Dennis, by the way, up to 13th and 14th places respectively, so they're working their way through the field. But right now, Van der Ness, he's looking in front. He wants to get past Brian Lyons and Michael Blake, but he's also holding back Oscar Cooper and the rest of this just train of cars out there.
Yeah, this is where our championship contenders have really got to be careful. This is the point in the race where it's at their utmost risk of being caught up in incidents. I mean, just look at Phil Dennis. Well, let's see what... poor old Josh Thompson.
That wasn't Thompson's fault either. That was the 55 coming across on him. And that's what then caused a chain reaction. It was Andy Archer who went left hand down. That's Ben Gregory facing the wrong way. That's after turn 3, which is an unusual place to go off there. But yeah, that's him around. Too. Yeah, he's dropped down there. Has Ben Gregory? Where is he on my title screen? I can't see him. He's down to 29th. Out of all that, he was up there, I believe, in 10th place. Here he goes, over the curb. Oh, so easily done.
Oh, yes, it is, isn't it? We just get that little bit of a hop there as well and tried to hang on to it. And whoa, one of the 3M cars is... Oh, Andy Shield has decided to... He has. He's pulled it over. And he hasn't taken a tow jet. There he goes. Just as I say that, I knew that was going to happen as well. He goes, do you know what? I just need to go and I can't drive any longer. I just
that's
gets a big help from another championship front runner turfing a car into the wall. And well, he won't. Andy Shield won't have broken a sweat though in that situation. He's got the amazing sweat wicking properties of 3M race preparation gear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Poor old Josh Thompson though, but that is the thing. If you're in that mid-pack melee, that's what happens. And meanwhile, Phil Dennis is watching Kai Kashubi doing that. And he's like, I would never do such a thing. That's terrible. How dare you?
Well, what we are seeing is battling throughout the field. Now, Michael Blake has lost the cars in front, Max Wolf et al. And here comes Brian Loyenstead in the Sim Stickers car to the inside of this Immortal driver. And is that Oscar Cooper? It is. He's trying to make a move. So Cooper has finally made it past Chris Van Der Ness, as has Matt Turnbull. So those two now trying to make moves forward, but Cooper can't get past Blake on the corner exit of the hairpin, looking into the inside of turn 8. Blake gives the space there. You must always leave the space, a certain Spanish Formula 1 world champion once said. And Cooper round the outside, Turnbull to the inside.
Oh, so they taking the... I'm presuming that's Fernando Alonso.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Are there any other Spanish Formula 1 world champions?
No.
That's good trivia. See, there's a good trivia question, Paul.
Oh, here comes Keika Shube behind Michael Blake now. So Blake, I think he's just playing that I want to just play it sensible, fight the fights that I can fight, and anyone who's not really I'm in a fight with, just not hold them up too much, but not make life easy for them. So yeah, Blake, there he is in that Immortal car, making no defence on Kei Kashube, and Kashube down the inside, and Phil Dennis is going to try and follow.
Josh Thompson parked up for the night, and unfortunately it's never good when you're in the live chat of the broadcast, and Josh Thompson simply saying champ in the bin. I wouldn't say so, Josh. I think what do you reckon, Paul? I think there's plenty more to play out in this championship. We see Phil Dennis and Kai Kashube. They could find themselves at the back of the grid for the next race.
You never say never, that's for sure. And of course, there are 2 drop scores in effect in this championship as well. So if you have one bad week, unless of course you end up with a penalty that week, if you end up with a penalty, it doesn't count towards your drop scores, by the way. So you've got to have a clean week for it to count against your drop scores. But yes, certainly don't count anything out in this World GT Championship. Anything can happen. But right now, Aaron Rose, Luxim 24 Esports. Great to see them in that Lamborghini Huracan. And he's certainly getting the pressure on at the moment. David Baker in front of him has managed to get the jump over him in this race. So Baker's trying to move forward in all of this. And we're heading towards the pit stop cycle now. We've gone over 10 minutes of the race. So if you are in that pack, as we discussed earlier, Peter, now could be a time where you can make a move.
Yeah, this is also one thing to consider as well for the drivers who are maybe a little bit mired in the pack. They could perhaps think about jumping out of sequence and taking a pit stop as well. That is an option open to them as well. But look at this, the BS competition cars, although they're painted differently, they do race in the same team. Kai Koshube and Phil Dennis making their way through in the BMWs. Now, given if there's two of you, that can sometimes really help when cutting through the pack, Paul.
Certainly can.
It can. It can also be utterly disastrous as well.
Yes, absolutely. The problem is, if you make an early pit stop and then you get caught up behind traffic, you know, if you end up in traffic and they're slower cars than you, then, well, you never know. You just get held up, it slows you down, and you end up losing out on that. So that's the risk that you take if you do take that early pit stop. By the way, Matt Turnbull all over the back of Lee Berridge now, and he senses the hurry up is needed, does Turnbull, because behind him there you see those two menacing BMWs, Kei Koshube and Phil Dennis behind. So yeah, Turnbull wants to make a move. In fact, he's making a move to the pit lane. He's off into pit road, and Dennis makes a move on Kei Koshube, but Koshube is not going to give this one up without a fight. They may be teammates, but they're going to fight hard against each other.
Yeah, they've got to play this one smart, though. They cannot hold each other up. That's not what they need, but Koshube hangs on for now. The Frenchman, the powerboat racer. We can't say Ash Sutton's a twice British Touring Car champion because he's not here. Oh, we just did.
Well, what we can say is if somebody would have excelled yesterday at Spa-Francorchamps, it would have been Kei Koshube. But yes. Anyway, as we go along into the hairpin, Oscar Cooper now making the move on Brian Lyons. Brian, he's trying to hold on to that position, and hold on he does because he gets the better exit out of the corner. But it's Pro-Am versus Pro. Into turn 7, Cooper's going to have the outside line to 8, decides to just back out of it a little bit, trying to get that switch back, not happening here, and he sees behind him Lee Berridge, Kei Koshube, Phil Dennis, Michael Evdoka, all close together. He doesn't want to get those drivers with him.
No, he doesn't. Now, just an update, something has not gone right for Ross McFarlane. He's back in 29th position at the moment. He does have the fastest lap of the race, so that's good. Now, let me just check. Has he taken an early pit stop?
He had to pit on lap 1.
Ah, okay.
So he will have to pit again.
Oh, okay.
He won't make it to the end of the race on just that one pit stop. If there's a safety car, he could maybe do it. Meanwhile, Phil Dennis has headed onto pit road, I can see, and, well, there was a spinner in the background of that shot on the left-hand side, turn 1. As well, we've got a number of cars headed down to pit road now. So, in fact, I believe it was Brian Lyons. Yes, it is Brian Lyons who had an issue at turn number 1. There's Phil Dennis on the right-hand side of your screen. At least he was having his pit stop. He's now out again and away, and 10.5 seconds in the actual pit stall. So, about the same as what he did in race number 1. But Brian Lyons dropped down the order, down to... he was in 4th place, he's down to 18th, and this is what happened.
Oh dear. And that's a really awkward place to go off as well, at the pit exit. And oh, don't reverse. Oh, I wonder, did that trigger any more incidents?
I don't believe it did. I think everybody did manage to avoid it, and Brian did a good job of getting that car back out the way. Of course, that was on pit exit as well, and that meant that it could have got a little bit sketchy. Meanwhile, at the front, Max Wolf is trying to make moves on Mark Woodhouse, and Bradley Hull's still out front for that year 1 car. He's doing a really, really good job out there at the front.
Tell you what, he's really good through the flip-flop on that last particular part of the circuit.
I thought I got away without the puns, but of course, Chaz Draycott leaves, I'll get Peter Mackay instead.
Yeah, we're just as bad as each other, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. I've left it a couple of weeks, actually. Yeah, I have to say. But yeah, brilliant stuff from all three of these guys at the front, Hulls, Woodhouse and Wolf. But of course Hulls in the AM class, he's in position for a huge haul of points, but you've got to get it to the flag. We're just coming up for 16 minutes in. These guys have really got to think about the long game, minimise those mistakes and just try and stick to their pace. Don't try and drive any quicker than you maybe otherwise can, as Mark Woodhouse leaves the door open again at the hairpin, and he's paid the price as Wolf is going to try and come back. Now it's a Porsche 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment, with Oscar Coper not too far behind, but Woodhouse has toughed it out. That's very clever there from Mark Woodhouse. Oh no, a little bit of digital aero weight there, I think.
And Oscar Coper, once that rear end goes on a Porsche, it goes, that's for sure. And it just goes around. It's like a pendulum, and it just swings away. There's very little you can do about it. Was he assisted?
I think he was assisted only by the vagaries of digital aero weight. Watch this.
Yeah. Just that little bit of, I will say the N word, the net code. Of that, of course, it is in all online applications, and well, that is just unfortunately the nature of the online realm that we live in right now. But we can see that Oscar Coper finds himself in third place now, putting the pressure on, and the car loitering in the background is Kei Kashube. He's sniffing an opportunity right now as into the pits comes, I believe that's David Baker. It is.
So David Baker comes in the Lamborghini and on the move again very quickly. It's always good to see. And well, I wonder if, now here's a question for you, Paul. Can Ross McFarlane, could he fuel save his way to the end? Is that even possible?
Be a miracle if he does. I think he needs a safety car is what he needs for him to be able to do that. Now the only way that you can get a safety car in this championship is if the track is completely blocked out there. So with the way that the cars have all spread out now, that becomes less and less likely to happen out there. So it will be a sterling effort if he does manage to fuel save all the way through to the end. But, well, look at this. Coper looking to the inside, into Sachs curve. It's not usually an overtaking opportunity into there. Matt Woodhouse left the door open, and Oscar Kei Kashube is just going to say, oh, well, if you're letting them through, I'll come through as well.
Yeah, that little exchange there with where Max Wolf getting turned around, the key thing about that was allowing Kei Kashube into this leading pack, and once he's in that leading pack, well, to be honest, he should carve through with aplomb, and already all over the back of Oscar Coper. Now Bradley Hulse is looking in his mirror thinking, oh, okay, how do we play this one? He's just got to try and hit his own marks, hit what he can do, and let the faster guys do what they're going to do. But already Coper right in the draft here as well. Is Coper going to take his first opportunity now, coming down into the hairpin? Hulse goes defensive big time, and Coper's going to try around the outside, and
oh, that's lovely.
Look at Kashube cutback. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
That's great from Kei. The last thing that Bradley needs to do here is panic. He just needs to do what he's been doing at the front there and not think about this being for the lead. Just take it as it is. Kashube down the inside following. So Coper to the front, Kei Kashube second, and Bradley Hulse, after almost 20 minutes of this race, in first place, down to third right now. But with him being an AM driver, he must be very happy with his performance so far in this opening half of the race. Of course, there's still, as the great Murray Walker would say, half the race gone, half the race yet to go here.
Yes, I think it's been an absolutely super drive from Bradley Hulse. It's definitely his drive of the season so far, because I think, well, obviously leading the race for half of the duration is very good, but also there he did put up a defence to the leaders, but very cleverly didn't lose that much lap time, and then when they did come through, managed to minimise the time lost. Now he can carry on. He's comfortably the leader in the AM class and set to grab a huge chunk of points. So now he's just got to just settle back into that lovely rhythm he had earlier on, and carry on. And at the moment, he's keeping Mark Woodhouse at bay, about 0.6 of a second. And in fact, as you mentioned earlier, Paul, Bradley Hulse can benefit of the slipstream of these two pro drivers in front for a lap or two.
Absolutely, as Kei Kashube to the inside. Oscar Cooper, well, he's a very capable driver, is Oscar. We've seen him in this championship for, well, this is his, I believe, second season in this championship. In fact, it is. I'm correcting myself right there. But he is down to second place. But don't write out Oscar out of this one, because Kei Kashube up to the front. Switch there from Oscar. Worth pointing out as well, Phil Dennis is in 17th place at the moment. He's the leader driver who has made a scheduled pit stop. There are two drivers in front, which is Ross McFarlane and Kenneth Branson, who have been on pit road, but were not planned. They weren't scheduled pit stops, so they had to pit at the end of lap 1. Oh, as Hulse runs wide through Sachs Curve. It's an easy mistake to make, and Mark Woodhouse goes, all right, thanks mate, I'll be off now.
Yeah, this is a critical point of the race for all of the AM and Pro-Am drivers near the front of the field. They've just got to calm down at this point and just keep the pace up as best they can as Michael Avdoka comes in the number 989 SimLab Mercedes. Wonderful looking machine, that, the AMG GT. And Bradley Hulse now back to 4th overall. But, that well held. Oh my word, that was a big old moment there, Paul, as he has to give best again. Now,
that's a car that's a lap down.
I was about to say, yeah, that's Underhill, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Didn't quite catch his number, but yeah, Bradley Hulse. That's the thing that can happen in this Porsche. You can so easily lock the rear tyres of this car when you're changing down if you're too aggressive on your downshift. And well, it doesn't look quite as impressive as when we were on board there, but trust me, he will have had his heart in his mouth right at that moment.
Yes, that was an all arms and elbows job, that one, to keep that car on the straight and narrow. But Bradley Hulse does so very nicely. Well, of course, we spoke to him after the race last week, and he was in reasonable spirits despite his not having the best of fortune out on track. But things going much more to plan here today for the Year 1 Porsche driver. But Kei Kashube now hits the front. Oscar Cooper right in his footsteps, right behind him.
In his wake.
In his wake. That's much better. See, you're such a wordsmith, Paul Wordsmith. What? Well, there you go. That's a good angle.
Yes, that gives us the sight of what happened. And yes, Simon Underhill would have been, oh, please don't crash into me, as he goes past right there. Yeah, so Kei Kashube in the lead ahead of Oscar Cooper with Matt Woodhouse in 3rd, Bradley Hulse 4th. Bradley Hulse, of course, the leading AM. Matt Woodhouse, the leading Pro-Am in all of this. But Max Wolf and Chris van der Ness, they're together. They're teammates in the Evo SR team. So again, Evo SR looking to score some good points. Ross McFarlane back onto pit road for the 2nd time today. The answer to your question, Peter, is no, he can't fuel save it.
Well, hopefully for Ross McFarlane, this will be a very, very short stop. He won't need too much of a splash. And right enough, he's off pit road already, or off out of his pit stall already at least. But Ross McFarlane, that's so unlucky, because really the melee kicked off in and around him, and well, it wasn't an awful lot he could do.
As he leaves pit road, that puts Ross down in 28th position. Well, he needs to just do all that he can to get the best result that he can. By the way, we have lost a number of drivers. Ross Nicholson, Andy Shield, Nick Salaputis, JB Masida, who we saw in that opening issue, Jesse Jones as well, and of course Josh Thompson, all out of this race. Worth reporting as well, JB Masida, he actually decided to retire because he had a smell of burnt plastic coming out of his wheels. So
never good.
Made the right decision to think, do you know what? There might be something wrong here. Let's just finish it for the day.
That's not good at all. Now, an update on our leader out of those who have pitted is, of course, Phil Dennis in the number 98 BMW. Now, he is 28.3 seconds behind the leader, Kai Kashubi, and the pit lane times range between 32 and 34 seconds. So, that would indicate that Phil Dennis is in a very, very good spot here, and he's got a whole chunk of clean air in front of him, so if he can keep laying down a hot pace, Phil Dennis could be on for a double here at Hockenheim, Paul.
Don't forget, though, as here we go, here's the look of what happened to Ross McFarlane at the start. It was the Jesse Jones coming across on him to avoid the melee, and of course that ended up costing both Jesse, and Jesse with his return to the track actually caused himself more damage. So Jones, that's what damaged his suspension there, did that return to the track. This is the race start here that we see, and there's Jones. You can see that car not cooperating with him at the start. Now it's worth pointing out as well, though, yes, he is within that time scale that he wants, but you can also, with the pit entry and pit exit, you are cutting a little bit of that last corner and first corner as well, so there's a little bit of take back for those who do pit with that.
Very good point. That's some intricate knowledge of the Hockenheim circuit, Paul. I'm very impressed. Well, that means then, brilliant for our entertainment then, that it could end up being a bit of a last lap showdown between Kashubi, Koper, and Dennis, possibly.
Well, Matt Woodhouse is the latest of the leading pack that has pitted, so he was in third place. He's onto pit road right now. He'll be looking for a good pit stop and then good out lap there, so hopefully he'll be going well. Mike Horder, Boosted Virage. We mentioned last week about Boosted teaming up with the Virage team and getting that good partnership going, so that's why we've got the Boosted Virage outfit here in the World GT Championship, and Mike Horder showing them well in 17th place behind Ashley Finch, who is in 16th place. So through turn 2 and turn 3, there you see that livery, the Virage livery then, the distinctive yellow, and it's a yellow and grey, isn't it, that livery, but it does really, it's different to pretty much the rest of the grid.
I like it. It's yellow and grey, but I agree with you. It does look very nice. I like that. The two-tone.
You don't think it would match, but it certainly works, doesn't it?
It does. Absolutely. Absolutely, it does indeed. 12 minutes to go, and our leaders still march on, still with their pit stops to be served. And at the moment, impossible to call, really. As the only thing that might thwart Phil Dennis's charge is if he hits a bit of traffic, but I wonder, Paul, if the sea might well part in front of him as three drivers, Hulse, Wolf and Burridge, all take to the pit road.
Yep, so that's two AMs, two Pro-Ams, and now Walker as well. Jonathan Walker onto pit road as well. Kei Kashubi, by the way, has been able to pull out a 2.9 second lead over Oscar Koper, so he's feeling rather comfortable at the front, but he needs to keep this pace up here, doesn't he? He needs to really keep pushing to the limit to try and make this work and jump Phil Dennis. And well, out of the pits, Max Wolf has not been able to jump Bradley Wolf. Bradley Wolf comes in behind Bradley Hulse. Max Wolf looking to the inside, little bit of a rub. There's a Luxim car involved in all of that as well. That's Aaron Rose, and Rose will not want to be involved in this battle because he sees David Baker just pulling away.
No good news there at all. David Baker on the charge, and Max Wolf now is going to go for the inside, side by side with Bradley Hulse. Bradley Hulse lead on the brakes and has to give best to Wolf. So Max Wolf through, and oh dear me, Hulse nearly snipping the nose off there of Rose in the number 8 Lamborghini, but this isn't done yet. Max Wolf is going to have to defend hard. Is Hulse going to have another go on the brakes? Oh, he's thinking about it. Brilliant close racing from the two Porsche drivers as well. And our two leaders, Kashubi and Koper, down onto pit road.
Yeah, the young Yorkshireman Bradley Hull's putting up a good display here today, it must be said. But there is your race leader now. Where is Phil Dennis going to come out in all of this? Because he is in 5th place at the moment. 4 cars are on pit road, and Phil Dennis, there he is, down the pit straight. He should comfortably take the lead here. He does. There he goes, speeding round turn number 1. And Kashube, no matter how hard he pushed, it hasn't worked out for him. Whereas Dennis, taking that earlier pit stop 10 laps ago, it's worked out beautifully for him.
Oh, it certainly has, yeah. So Phil Dennis now with a 2.8 second advantage with just 9.5 minutes to go in this motor race. And, well, what a double this would be. Phil Dennis, of course, was very fast at the Red Bull Ring last week, but, well, got involved in a little bit of arty-barty. That cost him the championship lead. But with Ross McFarlane all the way down in 20th at the moment, this chap, my goodness me, Paul, this World GT Championship just keeps on twisting and turning along the way.
It certainly does, and it gives us plenty of excitement out there. There's Aaron Rose, he's got Van der Ness, Ashley Finch and Mike Horder behind him. He's got Bradley Hulse in front of him. Still the top AM driver, 9th place for Bradley Hulse at the moment in all of this. Well, he'll be a little bit nervous with those drivers behind. He is only about 16, 17 years old, so inexperienced, whereas some of these drivers have got years and years of sim racing knowledge and experience, and they will know all the tricks of the trade. And, well, doing a good job is Bradley. Mike Horder, we're on the back of this queue here. He's got Pete Harrod behind him in another one of those Lamborghinis, but the boosted Virage car of Mike Horder looking all over the back of Ashley Finch right here.
Well, the real intense midfield battle here as well, as you can see ahead from the cockpit of Mike Horder's Lamborghini Huracan. Looking ahead to Ashley Finch in the Mercedes AMG. Rose up there as well, Van der Nesse. Bradley Hulse at the moment still leading the AM category in 9th, and by a considerable margin. And I tell you what, Paul, Bradley Hulse can even maintain just in this group. My goodness me, he will score the biggest haul of points that he's had all season.
Certainly will. This would be his best result as we look at all this one down onto the brakes. And the thing is, he's holding his own, and in fact he's trying to catch up to the car in front of him, which of course is Max Wolf, who's not that far behind Mark Woodhouse as well. So 7th down to 14th all together in a line of cars here. They're almost stuck in a slipstream train here, aren't they?
Yeah, they are a little bit, and trying to break through that train is not necessarily straightforward either.
Rose is trying.
Rose is going to try it. The most fastest, one of the quickest corners, and certainly a blind corner coming into the stadium section. But Hulse is saying no way. Going to try and nip back on the brakes, but nope, not quite. So now Bradley Hulse is going to look back to Chris Van der Nesse in a fellow Porsche. And this is a critical point here, Paul, I think, where Bradley Hulse has just got to try and to stay in the rhythm, and if he loses the odd car, loses the odd place or two, it's not the end of the world. This will still be a huge haul of points for the AM Championship as well. Whereas for drivers like Rose, well, he's got to try and move forward because there's quite a few pros in front of him.
Well, 6 minutes remain in this race, so to give you how things stand at the moment, it is Phil Dennis who leads this one by 2.4 seconds ahead of Kei Kashube. Matt Turnbull, 3rd place, a great drive from him to be in 3rd, with Oscar Koper 4th and Michael Abduka 5th. David Baker in his familiar position of 6th place for him right there. And then we see this queue of cars headed by your Pro-Am leader, Mark Woodhouse. Now he's got 2nd place in Pro-Am right behind him in Max Wolf, so the pressure is going to be intense for Mark Woodhouse there. Aaron Rose is in 9th, Bradley Hulse, who we saw and would be mentioning, is your leading AM driver in 10th place. Chris Van der Ness then, a Pro-Am driver in 11th. He is the top, he's 2nd place in Pro-Am. It's Mike Horner is 3rd place in Pro-Am in 13th. the second placed AM driver, as there's a move. Max Wolf to the inside of Matt Woodhouse. Oh, and Woodhouse, he has to just let him by because Wolf took the advantage into the stadium section and made it count.
What a move there from Max Wolf to get past Mark Woodhouse, long-time Pro-Am race leader, my apologies, in this race, but Wolf gets past. Don't forget, of course, Wolf got turfed into the gravel at the
in the pits.
Oh dear.
Now, was he one of those drivers caught up in the incident at the start of the race, and has he tried to make it to the end? I wonder.
No, this is his first
is it a drive-through?
No, this is his first stop.
This is his second time in pit lane. He's had his man. It's a drive-through. He's hit the instant point limit, and that is a drive-through penalty for Ashley Finch. That moves him down to 23rd. He was in that battle in 12th place.
Here comes Mark Woodhouse again. Sorry, Paul. He's they're going to go 3 wide with Rose in the Lamborghini. Going to have a big lunge. This surely can't all fit. Wolf's going to get hung out to dry here as well. Woodhouse just hangs on to it in the Team Mad number 38 car. Wolf in the number 81 trying his best to keep out the front there as well. Rose is coming through. Bradley Hulse. Oh my goodness me. Bradley Hulse is saying, I'll have a bit of that. This looks fun. That's not in the form book.
This is tremendous racing, fantastic stuff. We said that Hockenheim gives you good racing. Now Hulse is under attack from Van der Ness, and Chris Van der Ness able to hold on to the position for the time being. Oh, a big wiggle for both Hulse and for Van der Ness, and Van der Ness is the one who comes off worst out of that one. So Hulse holds on to his position there in 10th place. But Mark Woodhouse, the top of your Pro-Am, things are getting tasty at the front of this gaggle of cars, and Wolf is not giving this one up.
No, he is not. And Bradley Hulse has had a couple of big moments, but he is really taming that beast, that Porsche. Rose now takes a look again into turn 1 past Max Wolf. He tries to run it out a little bit wide there, side by side. Mark Woodhouse, 2 or 3 car lengths up the road, is looking in his mirror saying, happy birthday to me. Thank you very much, gentlemen. You just have a good old ding-dong there. Yep, do that as well. And I shall just scamper off into the distance. Max Wolf must be furious at the wheel of that car. Now, who's this?
Pete Harrod.
Where's he come from?
Well, he's come from behind Bradley Hulse at the start of this lap. Oh my goodness, we're going to go 3 or 4 wide here, down into the hairpin. We are 4 wide into the hairpin. Well, where do you look? Hold your head in your hands. Hulse gets a punt from behind, and that is 67. That's Alex Neller who gets into the back of the Year 1 car, and incredibly out of all of that, Peter, they all survive for the time being.
That's extraordinary. And whoa, big look again from Aaron Rose. Makes a little bit of contact there as well. They get him.
Oh, no!
Hulse. Oh, there's no justice. Oh, that's such a pity.
Well, Hulse, he's come out ahead of Brian Lyons, who's still in your AM lead.
Oh, but that's just, those points are so valuable in the currency of the AM Championship. Let's have another look then. Aaron Rose gets a little nip from the back from Alex Neller. It was quite a Constantina effect, and you used the word pinch point earlier on in the broadcast, Paul, and that's exactly what happened there.
I think it was an ambitious move, from Aaron Rose, if I'm honest, there, to try and make that move there. We've got 1.5 minutes remaining of this race. This has been a tremendous second race here in the World GT Championship. Your leaders are out there. They're around, I can tell you right now, they are coming into the hairpin. That's going to be close as to whether we get another lap or not, and there may be 1 or 2 drivers out there hoping that they don't get another lap out of this one. But now we're seeing Van der Ness putting the pressure on. That's Alex Neller in front of him right now. This is the battle for 11th and 12th place.
Max Wolf sells the dummy and goes for a big lunge up the inside. That's very, very late, but uses the braking stability of the Porsche well. Oh, and who's this in the BMW turned up out of nowhere?
Well, that's Lee Berridge, but look behind him. Ross McFarlane, what a drive, what a recovery drive here. He's been in the pits twice. He's had to get a repair done to his car after the first lap, and incredibly is in 14th place, and he's not giving this one up yet. We've got Mike Horder moving up a position into 9th place. Lee Berridge could potentially lose a position here to Ross McFarlane, and well, down the inside, McFarlane, can he get past? No, he can't. Berridge to the inside. We've got 5 seconds remaining. We've got another lap.
Okay, well that's great news if you're Ross McFarlane, because that gives him opportunity to get some more moves done. And this drive right here, Paul, I think this could be one that we look back at with as a really critical one for Ross McFarlane's championship chances, because he came in as the leader of the championship today, finished second in race 1, and my goodness me, it looked like it was going to be a disaster. But talk about damage limitation, what a drive from the Scotsman.
Oh, down the inside he goes.
Beautiful.
Nicely done there. Now, can he get on the power? He's got to leave the space there for Berridge. Berridge has got the inside here. Oh, a little wiggle from Berridge there, actually. That's going to cost him. And there goes McFarlane up into 12th place, but he's going to have to be careful of Alex Nella behind him, because Nella, we've seen what a hard charger he is out there. Onto the brakes, into the hairpin. And Nella is busy fighting with his teammate, McFarlane, saying thank you very much. Meanwhile, at the front of your field, all out on his own, I will say, into Sachs Curve for the final time. Phil Dennis is looking at a double here. Through the penultimate corner he goes. Just one more corner to go, and he will see the checkered flag waved by Barney the Marshal. Phil Dennis for 3M by Williams in XBS takes win number 2 here of the evening ahead of Kei Kashube. What a performance by those two. Matt Turnbull as well. Great turnaround in fortune for him. Meanwhile, Matt Woodhouse is in 7th place. He's got Pete Harrod behind him. There's not going to be a change of position there. So Matt Woodhouse is going to be your lead Pro-Am driver in 7th place. And look back, because coming out of the final corners, it's going to be Lee Berridge. What's happened to Bradley Hulls? Well, across the line, is that Berridge who's finished ahead on my timing sheet? It is. Berridge takes the AM win.
Oh, late drama there in the AM class race. Berridge not giving up to the last moment, and poor old Bradley Hulls. I mean, a completely innocent bystander in that little incident a couple of laps ago, got put in the wall and took a while to get back going again, and oh, what could have been. Now, let's see what happens here.
So Berridge is already in front. Oh, and there's contact with Brian Lyons and Hulls.
Now, was Berridge already ahead though?
Yes, he was.
Right. Oh.
Well.
Oh dear.
We'll have to see how all that pans out, but still, tremendous drive from Lee Berridge, though, to take advantage of other people's issues out there, to take the AM win.
Absolutely, fantastic stuff from Lee Berridge. Never give up, but also you got to give credit Bradley Hulls and indeed Mark Woodhouse, who both really capitalised on that opportunity at the front, and they really made hay in that first half of the race and kind of survived the last part of it, Paul, and we both got a good chunk of points nonetheless.
Well, let's take you through then your results, of course, pending any stewards' decisions during the week. But it is Phil Dennis who takes 2 wins from 2 for 3M by Williams in XBS. Takes that win by 1.6 seconds over BS Competition's Kei Kashube. Pure Sims Esports driver Matthew Turnbull is in 3rd, with the RSR by G Performance driver of Oscar Cooper in 4th place. Michael Avdoka for Pure Sims SimLab 5th, ahead of David Baker in 6th place for that PS plus Craig setup shop car. Matt Woodhouse, your top Pro-Am driver for Simmortal, in 7th place, ahead of Pete Harrod in the Pure Sims SimLab car. Mike Horder, your 2nd place Pro-Am driver in Boosted Virage, with Max Wolf 3rd place in Pro-Am in the Evo SR car. Evo SR then also getting 11th place with Chris van der Ness. Pure Sims esports driver Ross McFarlane, a heroic champion's drive to work his way through the field to finish in 12th place. Alex Nellett with the boosted parental guidance car in 13th, ahead of your AM winner, which is Lee Berridge for boosted motorsport. Michael Blake is actually classified here as in 2nd place in AM for Simmortal, with Aaron Rose 16th place for Luxim 24 Esports. Andy Archer 17th and 3rd place in AM for Century Sim Esports. Brian Loynes for Sim Stickers, Benjamin Gregory for 3 Spies Motorsport, and Lars van Rijn for Boosted Motorsport. Ashley Finch then, Pure Sim SimLab in 21st place with Tom Stevens 22nd for Evo SR. Ryan Hamilton, he was your AM leader coming into this one. Nomad Sim Racing 23rd ahead of Adam Hedgecott for Boosted Farage, and his teammate John Roberts in 25th. 26th for Simon Fielder for Boosted Motorsport. James Whitehouse for Century Sim Esports in 27th. 28th for the PS Craig Setup Shop Christian Rose. Bradley Hulston classified down in 29th place for Year 1 Racing. I wonder if he had a slowdown penalty that caused him to end up not serving that in time across the line for it to give him a time penalty. That's the only thing that I can think of that has happened there. Maybe? Possibly that as well. Jonathan Walker, the 30th place for the 3M UK Oosh. Simon Underhill, Nomad Sim Racing, 31st ahead of Chris Byram, Simon Nella and Toby Ward. Kenneth Gould-Branton, day to forget for him, out of the race, along with Ross Nicholson, Andy Shield, Nicholas Salapoutis, JB Masida, and Josh Thompson. And then the final driver, Jesse Jones, all did not finish that race. Well, Peter, what a drive and what a day for Phil Dennis, and that's certainly going to help his championship aspirations.
Absolutely fantastic performance from the American all night long. He really was. Well, I was about to say he was flawless, but there was, of course, a couple of little bits of contact there coming through the field, almost inevitable, but that may come back and haunt the American. But nonetheless, 2 super performances to get a double victory, a rare find, it has to be said, in this championship. And well, Ross McFarlane chased him all the way in race 1, but you know, there is going to be difficult incidents for all of the leading drivers, but the way that Ross McFarlane did not throw in the towel and the way he fought back from 2 pit stops after that incident at the beginning of the race, I mean, brilliant tenacity from certainly championship leader coming into this week, but who knows how it's going to come out when we get into the next race.
So one thing, I have had a look at this, and because Bradley Hulls hit the instant point limit on the last lap, iRacing then automatically applies a time penalty equivalent to a drive-through penalty, and that is why he has dropped down the order to 29th on the classifications. That contact with Brian Loynes, who Loynes lost it himself, very little place for Bradley Hulls to be able to go in all of that, and that has cost Bradley a ton of points. But that's the problem when you're on the limit, on that threshold of the instant points here today, Peter. You can win some and lose some with this one, and unfortunately for Bradley, he's lost a lot.
It's and you know, a lot of them are from incidents that weren't his fault as well. I think that's the really galling part of it. And on that last lap, you know, a car spinning in front and couldn't stop in time, and 4 incident points for that contact, and that's a quarter of your allowance. So, oh, you've got to feel for the young man, don't you? I mean, he was fighting like a lion there, and was doing everything right. Caught a couple of big slides, and spirit of the meeting for me, I have to say. You've got to feel for him.
But it's a learning experience. You've got to take that and learn from it. What it did do, it did benefit the Lee Berridge, who won the AM race in the second race, but also Matt Woodhouse, it's worth giving a mention to him, started on pole position, kept his cool, didn't panic and was able to finish in 7th place overall, top Pro-Am driver. That was a really sterling drive for him, and he had to fight for it as well with Max Wolf and Mike Horder as well.
That was a proper bun fight there, yes. Max Wolf on the case, but Mark Woodhouse again kept calm under pressure. He's a very experienced competitor, that's for sure. And you could argue that maybe Max Wolf got a little bit tangled up in with the pro drivers coming through. Aaron Rose was certainly charging hard, but Woodhouse was the one that kept out of trouble and really rewarded handsomely for it. And that Pro-Am battle, that's going to go all the way to the wire, I think. Well,
why don't we have a word once we've just had a look at this replay from Mike Horder's point of view, and wow, talk about avoidance. That is sensational. Avoidance technique from Mike Horder there, and that certainly put him in a position to fight. But why don't we have a word then with the man of the hour of the second race, Bradley Hulse. Bradley is with Peter Mackay.
Bradley, welcome to the RaceSpotTV commentary box. If I was beside you, I would give you a hug because you did not deserve that, my friend.
Oh, tough one to take. Tough one to take. I feel like I should have won that.
Well, you were certainly up there fighting for it at the front. I mean, talk us through the early stages of the race, Bradley. It looked like you were pretty comfy there in the early steps.
Yeah, well, it's a case of starting P3 because the reverse grid. So just got past Lee on lap 1, I think it was. And it's like, how many opportunities do you get to take lead of a World GTC race? Took a bit of a dive at Mark and got past him and then led for 8 or 9 laps and just tried to pull away, but unfortunately it didn't work out that way.
Well, he certainly gave it the best shot. Let's talk about the last few laps, Bradley, because that's where it really intensifies. There were some of the pro guys getting in there. Just give us your assessment of those last few laps, because it looked pretty busy from our spot.
Yeah, to be fair, I probably should have backed out and kind of stayed out of the way, but here you go, we got a bit of me. I thought I'd try and see what I could get, try and see if I can get a top 10 overall, and unfortunately the Lambo, I think, clipped me. I haven't looked back at it yet, so I'm not going to call him out. And then on the last lap, the SimStickers driver spun in front of me. I got a drive-through penalty for that, and that dropped me down to P29 overall, so gutted, but it is what it is. We know for next week.
That we do, and the main thing is, Bradley, is that you and that year 1 Porsche are super, super fast. All the best of luck for next week, and that result is coming, pal. Don't worry about it.
Cheers, fellas.
Yeah, Bradley Hulse we got to speak to, and another person we're going to get to speak to, because he's actually going to join us then, is the man who finished in 6th place, a familiar position for him. Finished 5th place in the first race, though. David Baker joins us in the commentary box right now. And David, I mean, you must be pretty pleased with how that's gone, 5th and 6th place.
Yeah, I'm mega pleased. I've got to give a massive shout out to Ross, helping with the setup for the car this week, because I didn't get a chance to do too much practice, and yeah, to have a P5, P6, okay, still some time to find against the leaders, but had some great battles with, I think, Aaron Rose in the first race, and he was stalking me throughout the second one as well. So, yeah, really pleased for how this evening went.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you had to avoid all the carnage that happened at the start of that second race. Just talk us through that, because it just seemed to all kick off in front of everyone.
Oh, yeah, turn 1 was interesting to say the least. I think I had Kay coming up the inside of me and Phil going around the outside, and hoping obviously not to take those guys out and stuff, so just backed out and just hoped I'd get through, really. I mean, it's not as bad as I was maybe expecting. I don't think we had major pile-ups at the hairpin or something. Obviously I'll have to watch the broadcast back, but yeah, you've just got to kind of be aware that everybody's going to check up that little bit earlier on lap 1, particularly with the inverted grid, and unless you account for that, you're going to go into the back of somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we're 5 weeks into the championship. We're heading to our second endurance race next time out at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. It's a circuit that everybody knows and everybody's raced in. This series has run endurance events around there. How are you feeling going into that round of the championship?
I think if you'd have asked me at the end of last season, I'd have been, I love Spa, but I'm just not feeling it. But something seems to have clicked a little bit more this season. I'm feeling much more comfortable in the car. So yeah, hopefully we can have a race at Spa, which will be a novelty. But that it's a good one as well, and we're kind of on the pace. But the endurance round, anything can happen. You don't get the lottery of the reverse grids, so those guys with pure pace are going to be very hard to catch.
Absolutely. Well, David, we'll let you get off, but thanks for joining us here in the commentary booth.
It's all right. Thank you very much, guys, and I look forward to watching the broadcast back when I'm done.
Thank you very much. There's a nice plug for the video on demand that will be available. But Peter, well, mentioned it just there. Spa-Francorchamps next week for an hour and 45-minute race. 2 mandated pit stops as well. Oh, we're rubbing our hands with glee here with that one. It's always a spicy race there.
It's going to be as gripping as a pair of 3M sim racing gloves, Paul.
Certainly is, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's a round that I'm looking forward to. It's one that I'd circled on the calendar here for this season. It is one that always seems to produce something special out there. And we always seem to get a bit of a one person just seems to stand out above the rest.
Well, Spa, I think one of the reasons why so many drivers call Spa their favourite is because it's a circuit where the driver really does make a difference. It's got a little bit of everything, but it really Spa is one of the true classics. Yes, it has a lot of heritage, and that's all very nice, but the circuit itself, the layout is just fantastic. And, a lot of the pro drivers you speak to, they just say Spa or the Nordschleife. Those are the two circuits that they really do look forward to. And I think you're right. I think that's where you do get one standout driver, one driver where it just comes together and they're at one with the car. But pick a person that's going to be. That's the unpredictable part, isn't it?
Well, it's that contrast, isn't it? You've got the high speed of Sector 1 and Sector 3, but you've got quite the technical section through the middle of the track where it cut through when they made those alterations back in, what was it, the 70s into the 80s, wasn't it, that they made those alterations. And it just really, it really does just challenge those drivers to be able to set up the car, because you want to have it as fast as possible up the Kemmel Straight to make that move, the slipstream move, viable, but at the same point you don't want it to be a handful through the middle sector.
That's the balance. I think that's what again makes Spa such a good test of the driver, but also of the machine. Having the best balanced machine is very important at Spa, because it tests everything. There's heavy braking zones, there's fast corners, there's straights where that drag up the hill. A lot of people say going down the Kemmel Straight. It's not down the Kemmel. It's up the Kemmel Straight.
Uphill, yeah.
It's very up, and that basically from the bottom of Eau Rouge all the way up to Les Combes, you need big, old-fashioned, nasty horsepower, and that's what the BMW has, of course. So. But then going through Eau Rouge itself and through the fast parts of Blanchimont, you want to be in a Lamborghini. Well, I'm sitting on the fence here.
it's a toss of a coin, isn't it? That's for sure. But that all waits until next week. And, I hope that you all join myself and Peter for that coverage next week. But what a thrill ride it's been for these two 40-minute feature race events here in the World GT Championship. Make sure you join us next week. Same place, same channel, same time for the World GT Championship endurance round from Spa-Francorchamps. From everybody here at RaceSpotTV, from myself, Paul Smith, Peter Mackay, and Hugo Lewis behind the scenes, it's goodbye.